Okay, I don't think it's just me. You've probably noticed by now we're sort of living in weird times. And the main reason we're living sort of in weird times is that the same rules of business just don't apply anymore, especially in sports. Businesses in sports, teams around sports are doing anything they possibly can, of course, to acquire new customers. And that means traditional means of acquiring those new customers and fans. In general, this has looked like paid advertisement for the most part. But suddenly influencers are the main way that these properties are now acquiring customers. And not even FIFA themselves are exempt from this new strategy. Which leads me to why making this video is going to be so important. Because FIFA has made a new rule. Not just a new rule on how they themselves engage with customers and fans and acquire them, but how you and I and other people developing and working in sports, and also fans in general, activate and interact with the business of sports all together. And today specifically, I want to dive into what that new rule is that FIFA has created, that strangely enough nobody has really noticed, at least in its entirety. And specifically, you probably get this by now, but I'm not talking about some new rule on the pitch. I'm talking about who specifically is allowed to own telling the story of the World Cup itself. A brand new category that before this World Cup honestly never existed. And I don't know really if it's ever existed in general in other sports as well, but that's besides the point. Now, FIFA sort of wrote this out of thin air, but it'll make a lot of sense once you come to understand it. But just so we're clear, the name of this rule and its principle is called preferred platform. And the first company on earth to ever get this honor from FIFA is TikTok. Now, I'll be the first one to admit that a made-up corporate rule normally means nothing. But here's how we know that this rule is going to mean everything. Broadcasters around the world, from Fox to Telemundo, wherever they're talking about the World Cup, are paying FIFA. In fact, they're paying FIFA close to $4 billion this World Cup alone in 2026 as of making this video. If you're watching this after that, it's probably more now. And I'll be real, all that money really gets you is access. The cameras, the angles, the proximity, everything you need to tell the story. And FIFA just took a slice of that and handed it to a bunch of people with iPhones for basically nothing. And on paper, it's pretty dumb. Like, they're taking a $4 billion asset and giving it away to creators for nothing. That doesn't really even make sense, except that it actually does. Dare I say it might be the smartest move FIFA has ever made, at least in the last decade. And once you see it, I'm gonna warn you, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And you'll probably come to understand that this is just the beginning, and this is going to continue to show up in a lot of different places. My hope is that by the end of this video, you're gonna be able to take this principle and utilize it and maximize it for your own. So let's walk through what FIFA actually did, how it works, and the part that matters most, how you, as a member of any team, league, or business or organization in sports, can maximize it. Or at least just use it before your competitors do, because the crazy thing is FIFA values this idea at over $4 billion. So who knows what kind of damage people are going to do with this. So let's get into it. And as a short disclaimer, I run a company called Athletiverse, which takes content and attention and monetizes it for rights holders in sports. And when the biggest sports event on the planet makes a weird move like this, it's all my world can talk about. But I'm gonna take everything that's public in my own personal experience and put something together that is most useful for you. So to begin, I think it's helpful by understanding what a preferred platform even is, because there's a lot being done in that phrase. First off, FIFA did not make TikTok an advertiser in this case. Advertisers are easy for the most part. Anyone with a checkbook generally qualifies as one. FIFA actually made TikTok in this case something that's never existed before. A partner with elevated content rights and an official in-app World Cup hub with a whole roster of credentialed creators creating content on the World Cup in the app. For the tournament, they call these creators correspondents. Very clever. And for now, there's 30 of them covering the World Cup. Also helpful to keep in mind, they're from all over the world. And the way these creators got picked was for their genuine love of soccer, which is important because most of the time, properties that do this wrong just go to any talent agency and get the people with the biggest distribution. The difference between Speed covering the World Cup and Justin Bieber is significant, which is why that detail matters. So really, all FIFA gave away to these creators in this case is proximity, which is very important because only rights holders for the last 100 years that could write 9-figure checks got this kind of access. And FIFA completely unbundled it and gave it to a bunch of people that are best at making you and I care about it. And by its nature, it did its job in creating competition. Just before this year's World Cup, YouTube actually made an offer to join the preferred partner list for FIFA. And of course, they were granted it for an unknown value. Now, thinking about this from a logical lens, there's a really easy objection to this. Because, dude, if you just give this all away for free, don't you cannibalize your business or your own product? Like, if I made Rolexes and I just gave you a Rolex for free and did it all the time, wouldn't that just diminish the value of everything? Now, in this case, it's a great objection for FIFA, but luckily for you and I, they have taken that objection and stapled a receipt to it. Now, specifically on TikTok, this entire program has been built off the back of something known as Game Plan. It's a product suite from TikTok that launched in 2025. And fans that engage on that platform are 42% more likely to watch a live event. 42%. That is enormous. And honestly, that flips everything on its head in this case, because the free clip no longer replaces the broadcast. It actually recruits for it. The clips that are then going onto TikTok are just trailers for the longer movie, which is the actual game on Fox. And it works out kind of nicely because the creators aren't necessarily stealing that audience from Fox, they're actually building it for them, which is a crazy arbitrage or deal value when you think about it. Like, FIFA was able to go out and get these creators for, who knows, probably not that much, except Speed, because he's very big. And they were able to pay pennies on the dollar when they were selling the broadcast rights for billions on the other side. Follows the same method as like free stuff on the top, premium thing at the bottom, but it happens to be very smart. But it's important to keep in mind that if that funnel is backwards, meaning premium at the top, free stuff at the bottom, your content basically eats your business. In a perfect world in sports, the free stuff is powering the expensive stuff all day long, which, crazy enough, so many of us still get wrong. Now that you know the tactical side of this though, I want to get into why this isn't a gimmick. Like, I don't think this is something we see for the next 10 years, but probably the next 100, or maybe forever, because human nature is kind of boring and doesn't change that much. I want you to think about F1 in this case. For those of you that are not familiar with F1, 10 years ago in America, it was just a rounding error. It was the European car thing. I remember my friend talking to me about Kimmy this and Kimmy that all the time, and I thought it was the stuff that he was putting on his sandwich that he got from Costco, not the actual race car driver. Then of course Netflix had to do us all a great favor and drop Drive to Survive, and that friend became even more annoying. But the show barely cared about racing itself. It was all about the personalities. In fact, the feuds and the team bosses screaming at each other by far is the main highlight of that still to this day for me. And it detonated the F1 atomic bomb. Something like 37% of all new F1 fans in the past 5 years came from that special alone. And it skewed the crowd to young and predominantly female audiences, which is exactly who F1 completely whiffed for the past 50 years. Another point about my friend, and hopefully he watches this, but the guy is like an 80-year-old living in a 24-year-old's body. And it actually did him a great favor, because now all the dates that he takes now with these girls are much more productive than they used to be because of that. The F1 connection, it's a real thing. And I can honestly say the same thing about the NBA. Like, if you have an iPhone and you're sort of near sports, you've probably heard of House of Highlights. An entire generation of basketball fans has been built off of clipping. And 13-year-olds figured out how to chop up these ESPN streams and produce them as their own theme page clips. That's actually how I got my start. Don't tell ESPN that. My point is that F1, the NBA, they didn't win by showing you more racing and more basketball. They won by letting the outsiders tell the story. Because if you haven't figured it out yet, storytelling is the bedrock of sports. If you incentivize storytelling, you incentivize the selling of your product by other people. It's the best thing in the world. You should try it. But like, actually, how many times growing up did you hear that like the ancient people or my grandma would huddle around the campfire and sing a song and tell a story? And thank goodness that's actually how we went from leagues suing people for posting their clips and now rewarding them for doing their marketing. That's not me taking a direct shot at the Olympic Committee, maybe just a friendly nudge. And honestly, the cleanest preview of this all happened at the 2023 World Cup, the female World Cup that is. During the Women's World Cup in 2023, TikTok leaned hard into the FIFA narrative. In fact, the Women's World Cup hashtag during that time period got over 4 billion views. And the total viewership for the event alone reached 2 billion people worldwide. And I'll be honest, I don't think this sport got twice as good in 4 years. The distribution just massively increased. So take F1, the Women's World Cup, the NBA, stack it all together, and the same law overlaps. The properties and sports businesses really in general that allow the storytellers to do their thing win every single time. Because those people are really darn good at marketing to their own niches. Because all those creators are really good at just one thing, and that's communicating to their niche audience. And again, the big shift here is that for the last 100 years, only the broadcaster had the rights to it. That's why Vince Scully and others were so popular. But in the digital age, we've blown that monopoly up, and now FIFA is doing it on purpose. Which now brings me to the line that makes this all complete. And if you could screenshot this or write this down or keep this in your brain, you definitely need to do it. FIFA is not a soccer tournament that happens to make content. FIFA is now a media company that happens to play soccer every 4 years. And once you see it that way, everything reorganizes around it. And of course, the thing that turns all this from a hobby to a world-class business is measurement. Because again, the bedrock of TikTok's pitch to FIFA on this is they can take all the fans that watch a piece of content, and 42% of those people ultimately watch the live broadcast. The $4 billion moneymaker. Advanced marketing departments aren't just posting clips anymore and saying, look, we got 1 million views. They're looking to figure out how that clip actually translated to new tune in audiences. And the craziest thing is FIFA's probably paying a couple people $300,000 a year to figure out this billion-dollar solution, multi-billion-dollar solution actually. But I want to take a quick step back for just a moment because there's something even deeper than all of this that makes this completely inevitable. Like if Thanos met Iron Man, which I guess he did. But the simplest way I can put this is that trust has finally moved. For hundreds of years, we trusted the institution. Fans trusted the institution. The network, the league, the famous anchor, that's who you believed in. And so the creator economy is the story of trust migrating from those people to the masses, which is very clear when you look at the creator economy. In fact, the majority of brand spend across the creator economy is pretty much completely dispersed. Like the top echelon of spend for creators is with the top 50% of creators. It doesn't for the moment follow the same barbell rule that we used to see. Now, private equity and people way smarter than me will figure out how to roll that all up. But for now, the democratization of distribution is among us. That means that trust along with it is as fragmented and spread across everywhere as it possibly could be. When FIFA hands the keys to the kingdom over to creators, they're not just being generous or even chasing a trend. I think they're following the trust to where it already lies, which is why FIFA went as far to let a streamer, iShowSpeed, broadcast the FIFA World Cup to his audience live. Can you imagine what the executives at Fox had to say about that? But hopefully not, because by now you know that that would be small-minded. But a creator is how a property reaches you as a fan in a way you couldn't have ever imagined. Because that creator that you loved watch thumbing it up on the internet is now your ticket to watch soccer. And that is so beyond marketing, man. I mean, that's how you grow the TAM of a sport that probably hasn't grown in over 100 years. And if you want more proof, Unilever, one of the biggest brand engines on the planet, has employed over 50,000 creators during this World Cup. Okay, employed is not the correct legal term there, but they have utilized that many folks for distribution for their brands, which is crazy to think about because the World Cup this year isn't even being fought on the pitch. It's being fought on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, all these platforms. Now you're probably sitting there like, okay, cool, Dom, well, I don't have a killer creator team and I certainly don't have $4 billion. I am here to tell you that, dude, you do not need it. You just need the logic behind this. Because if you are trying to reach sports fans, there are 3 clear shifts here that you just need to copy. The first is, please just sell the door, not the banner. If you have access to an event or a property, that is the big shebang. Now just offer the ability for creators to come in and maximize it. In fact, that actually is step 1 and 2. The third is just measure it. Like, don't just let this be another vibe exercise. FIFA just ran this model at the highest level on earth. And now you get to do it if you have a live event date and an iPhone to be able to DM people. Now the 4D chess move to all of this is not just facilitating it, but owning it. If you're the talent agency that's bringing together the talent for these sorts of live events, figure out a way to get equity structure in these live properties and events. We'll get more into it in another video, so make sure to subscribe. But you have the opportunity here to have a business that's much bigger than just fee-based. And of course, remember that the minute this stops feeling authentic, the minute it just ain't gonna work. Which is crazy because that is the job now of the man that was on the thumbnail of this entire video. Like, all you have to do is protect your IP and image. Much easier said than done, and a little bit scary if you're letting that many people tell so many different stories. But it's also why in this case FIFA chose one person to do the actual live production to their audience. You can ultimately decide how much access you give away at the end of the day. But the preferred platform is the way of the future. And the rules around it facilitating business are how we're gonna operate for probably the next 100 years of sport. There's also nothing better than giving people the opportunity to tell unique stories in only the special way they can. Now, if you enjoyed the tactical side of this and are ready to implement this yourself, make sure to learn more about us down below, because our entire goal at Athletiverse is to help business owners like you in sports scale to the next level. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, again, make sure to check it out. And if you made it this far, seriously, thank you so much. I'm hoping that the production quality of these videos continues to increase as we go, but it means the world that you are willing to take the time to listen. And please leave any comments down below that you may have. And homework for this video, please stop watching this and go check out a real example of what I just talked about. I think it'll inspire your next move. And until we see each other again, peace be with you guys, be well, and we'll see you soon.